So this is an interesting subject for me, sort of mitigating the effects of glyphosate. And so, knowing all the things that I can talk about and all the ways that I work as a clinician, I'm saying, well, how is this that much applicable in my work? And so in actuality, it's not something, I'm not an environmentalist kind of practitioner. I think what I really want to help teach you is that in all my over 4 decades in this industry, I've really, not spent a lot of time specifically on our environment and its impact on our health. I'm more about solutions and more about how to create vitality, which is what we're going to get to. But I really, just uncovering the immense amount of research around the impact of glyphosate, it's just overwhelming. I can't help myself but kind of let people know what's going on, here, and how we, each and every one of us need to actually do something about that. There's a lot of these slides I'm just going to push right through and tell you, you have ample time on your own to kind of go through this. I have a lot more, as usual, I have a lot more information than I can actually cover. So I want to, hit on certain key points. I'll stop here and there and talk. Otherwise, I'll kind of move through other things kind of quickly, just to kind of give you kind of how I work. So this is interesting. Glyphosate was patented in the US first as an antibiotic, like I said, 2002, and as an anti-protozoal agent in 2003. Really interesting that Bayer took a cross as its symbol, really, hijacked, talk about corruption, in my opinion. So the World Health Organization classified Roundup as a probable carcinogen to humans. Is this widely distributed to anyone? Does anyone hear about this? Absolutely not. So here we look at germline mutations and then somatic mutations. So we have no power when we say we're born with our genes. Yet to a certain extent we are. And the abnormal genes that we're born with are referred to as germline mutations. We can't do anything. If we have a Lie-Family syndrome, which is being born with the P53 mutation, which is the main gardening of the genome, then, we're susceptible to a cancer. There's no doubt about it. But why we don't have cancer the next day after we're born, even though we have the gene, or why we might get it at, 10 years old and get rhabdomyosarcoma, or why we might get breast cancer at 35 years old, or another cancer, say I've eaten really great my whole life, but I got cancer. Well, now we're learning that we do potentially have various genes that are really giving us a higher propensity for certain disease. Plants are very good at combating viruses. This brings us to COVID-19, for example. Let's take advantage of that. That concept is referred to, which is now where we're going to go into. Part 3 is xenohormesis. Healing with medical plants is as old as humankind itself. Why have we, as humanity, has just moved away from that, to recognize that? So there's a paper called The Yin Yang of Ginseng, which showed that ginseng was able to, in a animal study where animals were given a carcinogen, forming a tumor, a breast tumor, and then the tumor was excised, the animals some were given ginseng and some weren't. The ones that took ginseng not only healed up faster, so their tissue healed up better and quicker, but they had less distant tumor as a result of the surgical excision, because they experiment metastases based on surgical excision stress, which imposes increased tumor growth to distant sites. New evidence that optimistics live longer, which I told you, association of optimism with cardiovascular events, a review of meta-analysis. Optimism is loving, embracing the moment with all its horrors, beauties, wonders, and deep mysteries. I also, one of my big fans is, I'm fans of Winston Churchill, who said, failure is never fatal, success is never final.